She didn't lose her husband because she couldn't have children. She lost him because someone needed a scapegoat. For 6 years, she waited. She waited through missed periods that ended in tears, through hospital corridors that smelled like disinfectant and fear, through family gatherings where questions were asked with smiles, but judgment hid underneath. He said it was infertility. He said a man can only wait for so long. He said a marriage without children is an empty house. He said he was tired of prayers, tired of doctors, tired of hope. Then he said something else. He said the maid gave him what she couldn't. The same maid who swept her floors, who washed her plates, who listened quietly while she cried in the bathroom at night. And just like that, 6 years of loyalty was reduced to one word: barren. But here's what no one tells you. Sometimes when people abandon you, it's not because you are broken. It's because the truth would expose them. Because when the medical report finally came back, when numbers replaced accusations, when facts replaced stories, everything he said fell apart. This is Health Patrol Stories, a space where we examine the stories behind abandonment, where illness is often blamed but rarely investigated, where we ask one question: was it really the illness, or was it the excuse? We'll call her Miriam. She was 35, married for 6 years, no children. On paper it looked simple, but inside that silence lived years of waiting and wondering. This is her story, told in her own words. I loved my husband. I stayed when people told me to leave. I prayed when doctors had no answers. And I endured the whispers because I believed love was patience. Every month, when my period came, I locked myself in the bathroom. I cried quietly so no one would hear. I cleaned my face, adjusted my clothes, and came out like nothing happened. She learned how to smile through disappointment, how to celebrate other people's pregnancies while mourning her own. Baby showers became painful. Naming ceremonies became excuses. I told myself our time would come, but time has a way of exposing cracks. People started asking questions. Neighbors, church members, even strangers, questions that weren't really questions at all. They would say things like, "Are you sure everything is okay?" Or, "Have you tried herbs?" Some even suggested I fast longer, pray harder, and slowly the whispers moved from outside the house to inside the marriage. My husband stopped talking about the future. He avoided conversations about names, schools, plans. When I brought it up, he changed the subject. What she didn't know then was that silence is often the first sign of withdrawal. I noticed he came home later than usual. He was distant, irritable. She blamed herself. I thought maybe I was stressing him. Maybe my sadness was too heavy. So I tried to be cheerful, even when I was breaking, and while she was learning how to survive disappointment, someone else was learning her routines, watching, waiting. I never imagined he would leave me. For our maid, pressure rarely announces itself loudly. Most times it arrives disguised as concern, a question asked too often, a look held too long, a silence that feels deliberate. At first it was subtle. My mother-in-law would sigh whenever she saw children. She stopped asking how I was and started asking how my womb was. In that house, time became an enemy. Every year, without a child, felt like a countdown. Relatives suggested second wives. not angrily, casually, like they were discussing weather. They said things like, "It doesn't mean he doesn't love you, or you can still stay. Just understand." Understand what? That love has conditions. That loyalty has limits. That patience expires. I began to feel like a guest in my own marriage, like I was occupying space meant for someone else, and slowly respect began to shift. My opinion stopped mattering. Decisions were made without me. I was informed, not consulted. Infertility didn't just affect her body. It changed the way people spoke to her, the way they looked at her, the way they valued her. I noticed the maid was suddenly everywhere, always present, always helpful. At first, Miriam didn't think much of it. Why would she? Trust doesn't suspect betrayal. She knew my schedule. When I prayed, when I cried, when I slept, and while Miriam was shrinking under expectation, someone else was becoming comfortable in her absence. I blamed myself for everything. His anger, his silence, the tension. That is what prolonged shame does. It convinces you that every crack is your fault. I stopped complaining. I stopped asking questions. I thought endurance would save the marriage, but endurance without truth doesn't heal. It only delays collapse. After months of whispers, silence, and avoidance, the final fracture came quietly, not with a confrontation, not with an argument, but with sound. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I heard him. I couldn't believe it at first. The sound of laughter, movement, intimacy, and her voice, moaning the explicit pleasure she was getting from my husband's touches and caresses on her skin. Her laughter that wasn't meant for me. She could have reacted, screamed, confronted him, but she didn't. I stayed in bed. I held the pillow against my chest. The pain was excruciating. I bit my thumb. I exhaled deeply because I felt like suffocating. Pretended I was asleep. Pretended it wasn't happening. Because what else could I do? She kept the sound inside her. Kept the hurt folded like a secret letter no one should read. It was her silence against his betrayal. Her restraint against his recklessness. The next morning he came to me, as if nothing had happened, as if our marriage hadn't shattered overnight. And then came the words that finally broke her world completely. "I can't wait any more," he said. "I need a family. I've found someone who can give me that." The maid, the woman who had quietly learned every detail of Miriam's life, every schedule, every insecurity, every hope, and now she had taken the place Miriam had fought to protect. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to tell the world, but instead, I just nodded. I nodded and swallowed the pain. 6 years of love, 6 years of loyalty, reduced to a single excuse, infertility. And in that quiet morning, Miriam realized something else, that some betrayals are not loud. They don't announce themselves. They arrive like a shadow and linger in every corner of the home you once trusted. Betrayal leaves a mark, but sometimes truth leaves an even deeper one. Miriam couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. The betrayal, the whispers, the sound she had buried in her mind that night. She realized one thing. She needed answers, not just for herself, but for the years of lies he had built. I went back to the doctor, alone. I told him everything. all the symptoms, all the history, all the uncertainty. I wanted proof, not gossip. I wanted facts. The doctor reviewed her tests again. Repeated scans, blood work, hormone levels. Miriam, based on these results, there is no evidence of infertility on your side. No blocked tubes. No hormonal imbalance. No medical reason preventing conception. I couldn't believe it. For years I carried the shame, thinking it was me, that I was the reason, but there was one missing piece, one truth that could unravel everything he had claimed. Doctor, has your husband been tested? He hadn't. He refused. For him, admitting the possibility of male infertility was unthinkable. Miriam insisted. Finally, quietly, a test was arranged. Not by him, not by the family, by the truth itself. 3 weeks later, the report came back. The results indicate low sperm motility and a severely reduced sperm count. Conception would be extremely unlikely without medical intervention. So it wasn't me. It was him all along. Every excuse, every whispered blame, every judgmental glance from the family, every late-night guilt she carried alone was a lie, and now the question lingered. Why would he need her silence if the truth would eventually come out anyway? The truth is a strange thing. It doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it waits quietly until it cannot be ignored. Miriam held the report in her hands. Her heart pounded not from shame this time, but from shock and clarity. I stared at the numbers, and for the first time in years, I didn't see failure. I saw truth, but the truth had another layer, one Miriam was not prepared for. She confronted the maid. Quietly, alone. I asked, when did this start? And she told me everything. The pregnancy predated the affair. Another man, another secret. Not him, not Miriam. He needed a reason to leave, a scapegoat he could show the world. And I became that reason. All the blame he had placed on her. All the shame she had carried, all the whispers, the pressure, the humiliation, none of it was hers to bear. I couldn't undo the past. But finally I understood. I wasn't broken. I was just married to someone who needed me to be. Sometimes betrayal is not about what you lack. Sometimes it is about what the other person refuses to face. And sometimes the illness isn't infertility, it's cowardice.